In this section of the course, we're going to cover how to investigate an incident in the real world as a cybersecurity professional. Now, as a cybersecurity professional, our job is to gather, analyze, and interpret data in order to uncover hidden threats and respond effectively to security incidents. We're going to be exploring a comprehensive set of data sources from dashboards and automated reports that are going to provide high-level insights all the way down to more granular data obtained through vulnerability scans, packet captures, and various types of logs, including firewall logs, application logs, endpoint logs, operating system-specific security logs, intrusion prevention system and intrusion detection system logs, and network logs. All of these data sources are going to serve as our foundation for our investigations and allow us to piece together the puzzle of cyber incidents and make more informed decisions to safeguard our digital assets. So, in this section of the course, we're going to be focused solely on Domain 4 and Objective 4.9. Objective 4.9 states that given a scenario, you must be able to use data sources to support an investigation. Now, for most of my students, this is probably the hardest objective on the exam because you're not being asked to just memorize things. But here, you're going to be asked to look at a given log snippet or alert and then make a decision based on the evidence you see in that code snippet to determine if an incident has occurred or not, and if one has, what kind of remediation would you recommend performing on that given system? For example, consider the following snippet of a web server log that contains 6 lines of code. As you review those lines of the log, you're going to be able to determine what kind of attack was being attempted. Now, in this example, look at line 2, and you notice that there's a query string of laptops. That is normal, and that is perfect. But if you look down on line 3, we see the query string is updated to include laptops, apostrophe, semicolon, drop table users, semicolon, dash dash. Now, this line isn't just looking for the term laptops, but instead it's using that apostrophe to attempt an SQL injection. So, if the question asked you what type of an attack this was, you would say it's an SQL injection. Alternatively, they may also ask you what's the best way to mitigate against this type of attack that you looked at inside of the logs. So, looking at the logs, you determine it's an SQL injection. Now, what's the best answer to be able to prevent an SQL injection? And that would be something like a web application firewall being placed between the database server and the end user who's trying to access it. Because a web application firewall can detect and prevent SQL injections from occurring by conducting input sanitization and blocking out known attack patterns like those used in an SQL injection. Now, as we begin this section of the course, we're going to start out by looking at the different types of data that can be used during your investigations. Then, we're going to move through 11 different examples with some known incidents that you can then learn how to read these logs, alerts, and other types of data so you can use it during your investigation. As we move through the section, we're going to cover things like dashboards, automated reports, vulnerability scans, packet captures, firewall logs, application logs, endpoint logs, operating system security logs, IPS and IDS logs and alerts, network logs, and metadata. Once we finish going through all the examples of each of those different types of data that you may see on the exam, we're then going to move into a short quiz to see what you learned during this section of the course and review each of those quiz questions fully to ensure you can explain why the right answer was right. So, if you're ready, let's start investigating our data so we can identify if some kind of action is malicious or not in this section of the course.